All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. Let's just get started. Good afternoon. My name is Claudine, and I'm the marketing specialist here at SmartSimple for client success. And I also have on this call our director of marketing, Alex Wong.
Hi, everybody.
All right, and again, thank you for attending this user group meeting. Just to give everyone an idea of what to look forward to for this meeting. We're just going to have name organizations that were registered to attend, and then we will go straight to the client demo by the Greater Columbus Arts Council. And then after that, we'll get into some Q&A and a few reminders. So just to give you an idea of who's registered for this afternoon, we have the California Arts Council, Creative Saskatchewan, Delaware Division of the Arts, Greater Columbus Arts Council, Magnus LLP, the Massachusetts Cultural Council, Missouri Arts Council, the Montreal Arts Council, Ohio Arts Council, Ontario Arts Council, and the Wisconsin Arts Board. So I'd like without further ado, I'd like to introduce our client demo for today. It will be led by Mackenzie Swinehart, who is the Senior Grants and Services Coordinator for the Greater Columbus Arts Council. Mackenzie, do you mind saying a few words about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am new-ish to the Greater Columbus Arts Council. I started last September, right when we were converting to our new SmartSimple system. Before that, I worked for a variety of arts organizations for a number of years and served as a panelist at the Nevada Arts Council. So this is my first foray into grant making, and it's been a very exciting year.
All right. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. So I guess I'll just go straight to your presentation for the client demo. Mackenzie, feel free to just tell me when to go on the next slide.
Sure. Okay, so I thought what I'd do first is talk a little bit about the council. So we are the Greater Columbus Arts Council. We are a nonprofit 501c3, and we partner with the City of Columbus. We have an annual contract with the City of Columbus, and our primary funding source is the city through bed tax. So that is our funding source. We distribute a little more than $4.6 million annually, and we run approximately 9 grant and fellowship programs through the SmartSimple program. I kind of focused all of our data on SmartSimple today, and we run about 27 cycles. We have not been able to track our submitted numbers in our old system very easily, so approximately we get about 600 applications submitted per year. We also do individual one-on-one grant meetings, so we do about 100 of those a year with arts organizations, and then we award 450 grants approximately, grants and fellowships per year. So that's just a little bit about us. We support art and artists in the City of Columbus and Franklin County. So that's I'm on to the next slide.
Okay.
So within our team, we're just a small team of 2. It's myself and the director. We established these goals last year, and a lot of our SmartSimple integration is related to these team goals to reduce barriers and improve efficiencies, foster equity, and extend our reach. So we feel that through this conversion and through having a more simplified, streamlined system that has some capabilities that our old system didn't have, it actually helps really achieve a lot of these goals, and we've been promoting this throughout the community at our workshops. We do a huge number of workshops at various community locations a year. In December, when we were launching, we did 18 just in 1 month at community libraries in our neighborhood, so we're out there talking to folks. Okay. And ready for the next slide. So how we use SmartSimple is we were on quite an old system that was custom built for us, and I'm sure when it was built over a decade ago, it was very, very useful and helpful. But we just had outdated technology, and we couldn't run reports, and it was hard to update things, and we really couldn't manage a lot of our application process ourselves. So our primary focus when we moved to SmartSimple was streamlining our application process. We use that as an opportunity to simplify our requirements, to think about, reevaluating what we were asking for in our grant making process. We wanted an ease of uploading materials, that it would just, that and the budgeting would be a lot easier. And then we moved to digital signatures. We don't use the official signature thing. We worked with our legal team, and we just allow a checkbox and a type name. And then we do a staff review of all of our grants that come in, and then we engage our panelists and reviewers. In the old system, it was hard to really track and do all the scoring in the system through our reviewers, and now we of course do that. In addition, I will show you in the demo, we do have a new reviewer portion that's like a blind jury process that we're going to continue to use for calls to artists and some other activities that's maybe a little bit different than our traditional grant making, but I think would be useful to folks who might be engaging in kind of any open call that needs a blind jury. And then the big thing for us is we were not able to run reports in our own system, and so we're very excited to expand our reporting capabilities and change even the fields of data collection that we are getting from our partner organizations, so that we can better and more transparently report on our grant making activities. That's how we're using SmartSimple right now.
Amazing. I just wanted to send a reminder, Mackenzie, before you get into the demo, that for this client demo, feel free to raise your questions over the phone, typing it on the Q&A box or the chat box. I can raise it to Mackenzie if you'd like. Also, even if Mackenzie's the one doing the presentation here, this is a very casual two-way environment. If Mackenzie, if you'd like to ask questions to the audience about how you can make things better for a platform, feel free to do so. And it's the same with the audience. If you'd like to, again, ask more questions for Mackenzie, just go ahead and feel free to do so. All right?
That's great, because we're on the next slide. I have a bunch of questions. So hopefully someone will have some answers for me.
Okay.
So we officially launched January 5th of this year, and after a kind of a long conversion and development process. So when we were finally at our deadline for launching, we really just needed to get the user side as clean and simple and working as possible, and we kind of held back on a few learning of functionality things, and so when I say challenges, it's possible that these are just our challenges in the sense that we haven't gone through training, or we haven't learned these steps yet. And so this is what I would ask to those organizations who are maybe larger and have database managers or staff dedicated to SmartSimple, or maybe who have just been in the system a little bit longer. So the first big challenge, now that we're thinking about next year's cycles, is as we're expanding grant programs, how to build a level one from the ground up. And so my question for the group is, when you have a new grant program that needs, maybe a number of steps of functionality, grant agreements, or other activities affiliated with it, does someone in your office build it yourself? Do you have an internal manual that you follow, or do you put a request for services in? We're trying to kind of weigh those checks and balances.
Anyone from the audience?
I'll keep rambling for a while if someone wants to jump in. So that's something that we're considering currently right now. We did struggle. We did add a new grant program at the very beginning of our launch, and it was something we struggled to do on our own. So that's what we were trying to figure out, long term as we think about completely new grant programs. And then the second thing we'd love to learn and think about for next year is when we make a small change to an existing grant program, how can we do that without impacting past historical grant data? So, for example, we recently had a grant that has a question that has 5 radio button answers. So it's a professional development grant, and we asked, are they going to a conference, a workshop, having one-on-one instruction, or traveling for research, or traveling to an invited opportunity. Well, about halfway through our year, we were running low on funds, and we decided to remove the travel for research and travel for an invited opportunity, and really just streamline towards those very focused. If I remove the radio button answers, it affects all the past cycles. So people who had checked those boxes and been approved in past cycles, now that question has disappeared. If I create a new question and hide the old one, again, it disappears on all past cycles. So that's something that I don't know yet. If there's a simple solution for that, I would love to hear that. It's just something that we realized as we're going to be changing some questions, but not full grant programs for next year. We love to have feedback from folks who have made changes year to year.
Okay, Mackenzie, I got a response here from Dan Katona from the Ohio Arts Council. We've done it both ways at OAC, RFS, and internally, and love premium support for some of this. We find lots of similarity between old and new programs that makes new iterations less taxing than they first seem. Changes to existing, we've basically just plowed ahead on these types of issues, but it could be that versioning could be a fuller solution for you.
Great. I'm going to write that down. I don't know what versioning is, so I'm going to have to look that up.
Well, the good news is, Mackenzie, is that so Dan was kind enough to type that into the chat box, so we can actually just copy the text there and share that from there.
Hey, Dan, so glad you're here, our neighbor. So that's great. We did find when we were actually making our new level 1, trying to do it on our own, we have a project support grant like many grant makers, and we actually wanted to make 2 tiers. So we really wanted to duplicate it exactly, and then we were just actually changing just a couple of questions, and we were kind of told when we were in training, we can't actually duplicate it. So we had to remember, we have 50 workflows affiliated with every grant program. We had to remember which workflows to add, this next grant type, and we missed a bunch of steps even going through it with a trainer. So that we were just trying to figure out, gosh, if this was just our first time beginner struggles, or if this is something that we should just plan to have a little budget for. So that's helpful to know you've gone both ways. Then another thing that we're just hitting now is how we're managing organizations that have many contacts. We've already this year had a number of organizations have turnover, have staff leave, have staff be fired, etc., or have a new contact that's come on, and because the organizations can't manage their own org contacts, it's something we're trying to figure out is, do you just manually send out an email to your orgs every year trying to say, hey, do you have updates of staff, or do you just try to keep the ear to the ground when somebody leaves? That's really what's been happening for us. I just don't know that we can do that for everyone, especially as we grow. So I was curious if anyone's hit any snags with just those changing org contacts and how you best manage that. I'll just leave that out there hanging. If someone wants to jump in or send a chat.
Well, and folks can use the chat as well if they prefer, as opposed to.
We can always read back your responses.
Yeah. We based off the responses, we can take some meeting minutes.
So we just noticed that, if, let's just say, Bob is the grant writer. Sometimes Bob started the application, so he's the primary applicant. But Sally is the executive director, and Bob leaves, and now Sally can't sign the grant agreement, or she can't access something. And so we're just trying to figure out, again, what's the best way to manage that. So that's something that we're working through right now and thinking about at that long term. And then this is something I'm sure we'll work through with support. It's an idea we've had recently and that we'd like to add at some point is flagging, I hate to call them problem accounts, but flagging accounts that we might need to keep an eye on for the future. Basically, if I get a final report from an individual or an organization that is might have some issues or might have something that will be relevant in their next application or next cycle, that we'd love to be able to flag them so that when I am just doing my applicant reviews, I don't have to try to go through each of their past final reports or past applications, searching for those issues or having to remember who might have had an issue in the past. So we're trying to figure out a way that it could be, easily visible, some kind of field that would just pop up when I'm doing reviews. It would either be in my dashboard or right somewhere where I wouldn't have to dig through their profile or past applications. So that's something I'm sure I can do, and I haven't really thought through that. But in case somebody else does something like that, like, hey, we need to look out for this application next year. We need to remember that there was an issue with their budget or some, anything along those lines. If anybody else does a kind of flagging for the future.
Dan says, I love the question on flagging quote-unquote problem accounts over and above a single year application. So say using smart cards doesn't quite solve it. Great question.
Yeah, so it's just something that I realized that I typically, for our competitive applications, I always go back and read their last year application and final report when I'm evaluating, because let's face it, we don't remember all of these after so much time. But when it comes to, we do such a large number of individual accounts or applications that there's no way I will remember or have time to even go through all of those when I'm doing the reviews. So as I start to think about and I work with support, I'm sure we'll come up with something.
Well, and sorry, Mackenzie, if I can just jump in. I don't know if there are any proposed solutions that we can offer at this point, or at least anyone in this conversation. But it's good that you're bringing these challenges up, because what Claudine and I can do is we can bring this back to our implementation folks and let them know that these are some of the challenges you guys are dealing with, and maybe they can look at building some enhancements into the upgrades to address some of these things. So yeah, anytime you guys bring challenges up where you sort of can't figure out how to deal with it, it helps us in terms of sort of coming up with possible solutions on how to solve those problems. So keep coming with the challenge.
Perfect. Okay, I think we're at the demo portion.
Okay, so whenever you're ready, just go to need to share on your end, and then you can share your screen.
There you go. All right. And can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I did want to just show you real quick. This is our old system. We're still closing out final reports in there. So this is my view, but this is actually what our users saw too. It was these are all like unsubmitted grants that they open. There's like payments. It's a little confusing and just not super user friendly. So we want to take a quick glance at that so you can see where we came from and where we're going. In fact, all of our narrative questions were like in one huge box, which always made it difficult for reading, especially those long applications. So I just want to show where we came from. So I did want to look at a couple of things. This is my dashboard. We go through cycles, our organizations 3 times a year, and for our project support, and then once a year for our operating support, so our legacy institutions, and then we have monthly grant deadlines for our artists. So I thought I'd look at an artist dashboard real quick. Bob never wants to come out. Bob's one of my test accounts. So this, as you can see, it's just much more user-friendly than our old system. We have a little welcome that's always send them back to guidelines because we'd love to see them read those. And we have all of our funding opportunities are listed over here. So you'll see this one's a unique situation. I'll explain it in just a minute, but all of our upcoming deadlines and what the individuals can apply for, and then when we have fellowships available, they're on this side. This one is still visible even though the deadline is passed because it's an invitation-only grant program. I am not really going to demo that today because we haven't gone through a cycle of that yet, and so I'm not 100% sure that we've figured out all the bugs, but that was something that development created for us was an invitation-only grant program. So they will see all their in progress, submitted, approved, kind of where they're at in the process. And then at the bottom, these are our activities. So when they sign their grant agreements digitally, they live here and they can see them forever. And then any final or interim reports are here. So one of the things that we do that I took a glance at everyone who is going to be coming here, and I think most of our agencies are state or directly government. So I'm not sure how many folks work with fiscal sponsors, but I thought I would just talk through our process. We really love what happened with SmartSimple with our fiscal sponsor process. So we do allow individuals or groups that are not 501c3s to apply for some of our grants. So we built in all that functionality so that the right person was getting the right notification. We also require our fiscal sponsors to be involved in the grant process. They can't just be a financial pass-through. So, so that the kind of controls that we built help that. So I will show you that here's another one of our fake accounts, that they have the option to invite a grant writer or fiscal sponsor in any grant. That allows fiscal sponsors, I guess the ones that don't need that don't have this, but essentially people can invite grant writers if they just want a collaborator who doesn't have full access to their account. I think a lot of folks use that function, but we also have that fiscal sponsor option, so the fiscal sponsor gets an email to accept or decline, and then the fiscal sponsor on their end has full access to review and edit and submit the application. They end up being on our notification list. They're the only ones who access the grant agreement, so the applicant will see the grant agreement, and I'll show you an example in their account. So once they've been approved, they'll see the grant agreement, but they won't be able to sign it. And that's purposeful because we only want the fiscal sponsor to sign it since they are the person we are entering the contract in. So Sarah is an artist and she applied with a fiscal sponsor. And so she has her grant agreement, it's pending signature here, but she can't do anything and she can't submit. And that again is purposeful so that it forces her fiscal sponsor, who you can see is Columbus Ideas Inc., to sign that. So when we built that in, it fed into that grant agreement. The right person, the fiscal sponsor contact, is the person signing it. It also feeds in later to a payment activity so that the check is being mailed to the fiscal sponsor in reference to the grant for the applicant. So that has been that functionality has worked really very well for us, and it also prevents, we do again allow artists and groups to come in and apply for grants, but we don't want them to submit without having that fiscal sponsor confirmed and on board, so that prevents them from doing that. If they don't click invite fiscal sponsor, it will not allow them to submit. So that's been a very exciting portion for us. Then I wanted to talk a little bit about how we review grants. So we have essentially 3 different review processes. One is for kind of a standard competitive grant. We have a rubric and they're scored, and it always starts with, again, a staff review and recommendations, and then it goes to our panelists or reviewers. I'll give an example of what it would look like. It starts with draft scores, so these would be the staff review and staff comments from staff, and then it would go to the reviewer. So we'll take a look. Here's our reviews that are out there. So our reviewer, Jose, would see their score. They get to show or hide application. We have their rubric available to them, and they can also see any of the draft scores. This is a test account, so I didn't put any draft in there, but they would be required to submit that, and that has been really helpful, a really helpful guideline for our reviewers who before maybe not everyone was using maybe the rubric as thoroughly as they could have been, or maybe could be engaging with the scoring process and comments in a more formalized way. So that has worked really, really well for us. The thing that we had a great vision to work well that turns out logistically just didn't, was our non-competitive grants. We just need the committee to accept the recommendations from the staff, so it's just approve, decline, or abstain, essentially. And so we had built them a really nice, in fact, I'll just go right into Jose's session so it looks just like what he would see. We built this nice abstain, accept, or decline. Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted there. Which was a great idea, except what we found is in the past monthly we had asked them to accept or decline kind of in a batch and then note anyone they were abstaining from due to a conflict of interest. And so in this case, we would actually have assigned them all of the applications to do approve with contingencies, decline, or abstain, and submit. And what we discovered is, sometimes we get more than 100 a month. And because our board members and panelists are high-profile judges and city council members and leading their own businesses, that this was like an unrealistic expectation that they would go into each application this way. So we did a workaround, and we made a report for them that kind of serves that same function. And before we essentially did this manually, and now we do it through this report. So essentially they can see everyone in a snapshot, the applicant name, their discipline, their request, the staff recommendation, and then read the narrative questions. We have kind of a trust system that all the supplementals were accurate. So that has been a good, using kind of reporting as our review system, and they get a link to that report every month. Then finally, the newest thing that we have been discovering is a blind process. So we do some different fellowships, and that jury, that it's an out-of-town jury for most of these fellowships, and they review the applicants blind, just like you would a lot of the calls to artists. So we had to work through where we removed names from the application ID and made sure that it could be as blind as possible. So we just went through that cycle, and it has worked really well. And so we are actually looking to transition all of our non-grant public calls to artists that need a jury or a blind jury or external jury process to this system. So what it will look like for that kind of reviewer. So this would be an outside reviewer. They would come in, they would see, we had 100 in this case for the visual arts. They would open their review, show hide application, and do that blind jury review. We added a save as favorite. No one has really used this yet, but we hope they will. so that when we're in our jury discussion, which as many of you I'm sure know can get heated and have deep conversations, they can sort through those 100 of people and sort by their save as favorite. So if they like, I really want to advocate for this person, they just have they have an easy sorting. So that is our newest blind process, and so far so good. So that's a little bit of our demo. And I'm ready to go on the next slide unless somebody had any questions or wanted me to show anything different how we use being so new, again, I think I told this to Claudine, to the system, I'm not really sure how other people use SmartSimple. So we're just still learning what is unique to us and what everybody does. So.
All right.
I actually had a question, but I'm not sure if I should wait until after your slides are finished, because it's not directly related to the stuff you've just shown us. Maybe let's just wait. I don't know what the next slide is. So.
Any questions, feedback so far? I see a few of our regulars here. Dan, Julian from Montreal Arts.
Any questions, comments, guys? Anything you'd like to share? I think we need to have like a happy hour.
I know.
I will be at GAA in the fall in Oakland, so I hope to meet some of our SmartSimple folks in person.
Oh, there you go. Julian from Montreal Arts Council. Do you guys run donations through the system? We do not. We use Blackbaud for that. Okay, thank you very much. Another one here. Dan says, I love the Blind Fellowship review. I may follow up with you later to learn more. Great, Dan. We were just talking about our friends over at OAC. Since we're such close neighbors, I'd love to actually just kind of learn a little bit more about how you guys use Smart. You've been in it a little bit longer than us, and we would love to streamline within our community. So let's set it up. You guys can have your happy hour over there in Ohio. Yes. Okay, yes, for sure. Coffee, happy hour, you know. All right, anybody else before we move to the slides? All right, we'll wrap up. I'll go back to the slides then. Hold on one second.
I think what's important about these sort of virtual meetings is the option of following up with one another outside of these meetings. So I think, Claudine, we did share a contact list with everybody, right? Yeah, I believe so, and I can definitely resend it just in case. Yeah, because I think it's a good opportunity. Well, these calls are good to get the ball rolling, but certainly, for my opinion anyway, for you guys to get the most out of these sort of virtual user groups is carrying the conversation on outside of things. Exactly. And, you know, mind you, Claudine and I are not working in industry like you folks are. So, you know, if your conversation takes a direction outside of, you know, the theme of SmartSimple, that's absolutely fine as well. This is supposed to be an industry user group, actually. Just keep that in mind, everyone. Great. Yeah, I look forward to, again, this is new and exciting for us, and we've learned a lot this year. So I do look forward to hearing how other folks are using it and what I can learn from those who may have been in the system longer, have someone really focused to that database management. We are looking forward. Like I said, we're looking at our new programs and changes to programs. We are always looking to improve. So we're thinking about new data point collections. How we might think about our reporting, thinking about, and of course always changes to our grant questions so that we're really tapping into what's most important. So we're looking at that for next year, of course, but beyond. Those in our community know we're in the middle of a public advocacy campaign, and so should we have any success there, that is going to change our grant programs and how we look at it. So we will have to prepare for that, and then we are going to, again, migrate some of those outside calls to artist programs, manage it through. We probably kind of leave it under that fellowship tab dashboard
kind of program mindset but move over some of our juried calls to artists that way. And it's something maybe long term, no promises, but we might offer as a service to, let's say, other organizations or even developers who are maybe doing a call for like a public art kind of thing. So that's something that now that we're getting more familiar with how we can manage that we might do that. And then we're just at a point where we're thinking about, we have all the workflows that we need, so just like confirmation, you submitted your application, those kinds of things, but sending reminders and notices so that we're doing less, so that we are just tracking all of those through the system. We just set up a workflow that to send a reminder, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks before a project start date to remind them the publicity guidelines. We require that our grantees include an ad for us and that kind of thing. So we're figuring out, we're really just kind of charting out what kind of notices they're getting from the system as part of their application process, but when we can send them reminders, because we don't do a direct to grantees newsletter. So that's something that we're evaluating right now and thinking about how much we want to communicate and what kind of items will be best sent through the system. That's me. You can get a hold of me basically anytime. That's our SmartSimple website. If you want a login, I'd be happy to give you one so you can poke around yourself. I once made a fake account on OAC when we were going through the development process because I was like trying to. We were just in the beginning, and I was like, I don't know, how do other people use this? So sorry, Dan. And then that's our citywide arts marketing campaign called Phoenix Art.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. It's been an honor having you host our first client demo for the arts user group. We hope to keep this going maybe quarterly, every 2 months. So if anyone wants to volunteer their demos and get feedback from everyone, definitely let us know and we can set that up. We'll keep you posted as to when the next date of this user group would be.
Yeah, I think what's neat is that this group has, we work with arts councils of all sizes, small and big. So what Claudine and I are going to try and do is try to connect with every one of you folks individually. Ideally, we have a situation where we get everyone to demo at some point in time, just because I'm sure everyone's situations are just a little bit different, which would make their demoing their system unique and interesting for everyone to see. So keep that in mind. And I think I see a slide up for Elevate, right, Claudine?
Yep. So before we end the meeting, I just wanted to send a reminder that we just launched registration for Elevate today. So we'd love to see everybody there. Please register. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Alex or me.
So so right now we have the early bird. We have early bird pricing right now that extends until
September 7th.
September 7th. After which then the full rates apply. So if you do intend on going to Elevate and you're already confirmed for that, we recommend that you sign up as quickly as possible to take advantage of the early bird rate.
Yep. All right. Are there any questions before we end the meeting? All right. I guess that's it. Again, thank you so much for attending, everybody. Have yourself a wonderful Thursday. Bye.